Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, I'm going to start this Bava Batra daf Kuf Chav Ches. We are going to begin on the bottom of Kuf Chav Zayin Medbeis, the second line from the bottom. Shalchi Rav Abba or Rav Yosi Bar Chama. So he sent a message to Rav Yosi Bar Chama the following question: Ha'imru Chavero, a person says to his friend, Avdi Ganavda, my slave you stole. V'hu Imru Lo Ganavdi, it's not true, I did not steal it. Mativu etzacha, so why is it doing by you? So I'll tell you what it's doing by me. Either atam macharteloi, you sold it macharteloi, you sold me this eved, as we continue kuf chav chesed alf. Atanasateli b'matana, you gave him to me as a gift. So on this, Ritzayincha hishab v'taya v'nishba, says Rashbam, v'neman hu atayna zu, he's believed with this taina. Even though we said before, movable things like animals, there's no chazaka. How do you mean alter? You don't get a chazaka immediately with regard to this. That's all it is referring to. However, or for example, Hanimil alter avol acher gimel shanim yeshan chazaka. So you would have a chazaka after 3 years. V'hachinami kigayin shehichzik bo gimel shanim. We're talking about a case where he had this ever for 3 years already. O bakatan hamutul barisa, or let's say an infant eved. Yeshul chazaka alter. There is a chazaka, he can't move, so it doesn't fall into the category of gaidrus. O chazaka alter o be'eved shel ra oisa be'edim zeh hamar beveso shel zeh. Okay. So in this situation, Ritzayincha hishava, if he wants, he could make a shvua, the toil, and take the slave back from me, v'nishba, and swear. So says the Rashbam, Ravusihi, the Karmele Hai Maksik Arer, the Maksik is saying Shari Pato Gamri, I'm Pater really completely, Zeh Maksik Mikol Shvua Shaba, because after all, I'm the one who's the muhsik. I'm holding this eved. I have no obligation in the shvua. Because when it comes to a normal shvua, you make a shvua and you don't pay. So he's saying, let me make a shvua. So in the yochel lakser boy, says the Rashbam, Zeh maksik lakser boy, I was joking with you. I was just joking. I'm not going to make a shvur because I don't have to make a shvur. My kamash malan. So what's the chiddush? Tanina. Armo nemanolai abba, nemanolai avicha, nemanolai shloisha roi bakar. Says the Rashbam. If a person says so in all these different situations. Again, he doesn't have to do anything. So, l'char, it's the same thing as Ne'eman, Shloisharai Bakar, She'enan Bekin Badin. You have these 3 shepherds who aren't experts in the case. V'roit Sayin L'nakit, Mishim Rishayim. We don't mention the words that they're Roit Sayin, because Roit Sayin are considered to be Rishayim. The Stamroi Behema, Daka Gazalanim Ninhu, Upsul N'chol Din Sheba Oilan, Ava Abba Vavhicha, Kasher and Mia, they are believed when it comes to other dinim. So Rameir Omer Yochel boy. So even if you said that, you could always retract. Ram Omrim Ini Yochel boy. Ram says you cannot retract. So on this says Rashbam, Behudin Legabi Shua Satoiveya. So too when it comes to the Shvua Shenishba al Ha'eved. The nightel, to make a shvua and then to take the tervayu afagav dolei havi dina hachi kivan de kibulov, since he was makabel himself upon it in yochel asabo, he shouldn't be able to retract. Umashani hakamashim Rav Abba de karmer hishava ve'etanocha. When Rav Abba said this case of I'll make a shvua and give it to you, then yochel asabo you can't retract the hasam nami be'etanocha pligi. That's actually they argue. Shenitzba Oimer Latoiveya Nemanolai Abba Shimis Chayvuni Etanocha Feel Hachi Amirabun in Yochalaser. You can't retract. The Yitin the Hainu Dumid Rav Abba, the Achar Shenishma Zeh in Yochalaser boy ela yitain. Okay, so then he would actually have to give. So on this, Gemara says, "Hakamashmon de be'etin l'cha machloikis." I will give to you is a machlokas v'loch g'dibi chacham. All right, let's look at question 6. Sholach Rav Abba, v'chul abdi ganavta, etc. So enu yochel. So he says, "Ritzeincha v'toyel enu yochel lachsavo." So my kamashmon v'hari kvar shenin ba'omer neman olai Abba the enu yochel lachsavo. So what's the difference? So he says like this: Kamashmon the Rabbanan the Hasam Mayri and feel kishinitva oimer kain. Even if the nitva said this, lafuki mamandi oimer the be'etin l'chol kuliyami chayzer. If he says, I will give you, that everyone holds that you would have to give it back. Says Rashbam, be'ikol man yermer hasam b'mochel l'chol machloikis. But be'etin l'chol diber hakol yochel asabo. Hilchach Israch Rabbi Abel Ashmina the Etnocha play. You tell me that the machlokas is really with regard to that. Okay. So Sholachli Rabbi Abel Rabbi Yosef Bar Chama Halacha Goyvim min Havadim. The halacha is you can collect from Avadim. So this is referring to a case where someone owes you money, so you can collect even though they are Avadim. Rav Nachman Amar Ein Goyvim. You can't. Sholchle, Rabbi Abba, Rabbi Yosef, Bar Chama, Halacha, the law is that Shlishi Misheni, that's it. So Shlishi Misheni kosher. A third generation can be made. In other words, a first cousin, once removed, can be made. Rabbi Aimer Afba Rishain, even first generation. Marba Ravashi, Aksher Ba'abba the Abba. He even allowed you to testify on behalf of your own grandfather, Vaishachasa Kamar. But the halacha, we don't go that far. That much we won't do, says the Rashbam, because the Bnei Bonim, ad Elif Daidais, you can never do this if you're linked directly to your father, Idu Avoy Sehem, the Ben Yerech Avivu, because a son is Yerech Aviv. It's like considered like linked to the father or to the grandfather. Fine. Barav, so when we mentioned before about Goyvin, so let's look at this Rashbam. So Goyvin min havadim bal chayiv shemeis. So you have someone that owes money and he died. Goyvim avdi asaymim. So you can collect from the asaymim of the estate. The mikar koidami, because an eved has the same status as land. Rav Nachman says you can't collect the eved. Then the iskish karkois. I understand that an eved could be like karka. Karka hanimi l'devarim haksum b'Torah. Kegoyin liknaisim b'kesem v'shtar v'chazaka. So that's what it's referring to. Like for example, that you could be kaina an eved with kesef and chazaka like karka. Shloli shava lehen, and not to make a shvua. She'ein behen oina. There's no din ona like land. So to an eved. When it comes to bal chayiv, it's like metalto. And in bal chayiv samech el karkoi she'ein yochin le'aved. And when it comes to land, so a person is semach on the land. There's no lien or shibud on an eved. Okay, that was the second thing, and then about the relatives. So weiter. So bar Rav Ashi Shalch Rav Abel Rav Yosef Bar Chama Hayodei Boy Loy Be'edus Karka. Let's say a person knows about testimony about the land, like he knows the boundaries of a property. Ad shelo nistame, before he became blind. A person was able to see, and he knew all the boundaries. And then, unfortunately, nistame, he became blind. So puzzle. At that point, even though he saw it before, he can no longer testify because he's now blind. Shmuel Eimer kosher. Why? Because Eshen Mechavin Mitzar Naha. It's possible that he could still figure out all the boundaries on all the signs. Says Rashbam, Simon Bishar Sadais. It could have been different signs, and therefore he would be able to know what the boundaries are. Of a glima lo. However, like a talis or a beged, then he would not be able to testify. Once he became blind, says the Rashbam, the amida lo samchina. On those measurements were not saimich. Shaharbi talisos midas and shavos, because a lot of them are the same. Okay, Rav Sheshes Amar Afilu Galima. Of course, Rav Sheshes was blind. After Mechavin Midas Arko Midas Rachba. You can know the length and its width. However, when it comes to like a piece of metal, chatichas kesef, a bar of silver or gold, then he's not believed. Why? Because again, it's just like a piece of metal, piece of fine gold or silver. You could know the proper weights. You know testimony until you become the son-in-law. Then become the son-in-law. Or, for that matter, pikech, you were able to know some type of testimony while you were when you could hear, but his charish became deaf. Or, for that matter, this is the reason why I bring this down, teach v'nistame, you were able to see, and then all of a sudden you became blind. Shafoi v'nishtata, person was sane and then they became mentally deranged. So we see in all these cases possible, right? We see that in fact it is possible when it comes to testimony. Let's say on the other hand, you knew testimony before the son-in-law, but Nasa Chasan became a son-in-law, Umesa Bito, then your wife, the daughter dies. In other words, you're no longer related anymore. So you were fine and not, and then yes. Same thing of Pikeach v'nischarish v'chosav v'nispakeach. You originally could hear, then you became deaf, and now you can hear again. Or Piteach v'nistami v'chosav v'nispateach, that a person again was able to see and then became blind and can see again. Shafai v'nish tata v'choser v'nish tapa, that you were sane, then insane. Kosher. Is that clock? Kosher v'chilaso saifa b'psulus posel. Chilasa v'saifa v'kasher kosher. If you're at the beginning and the end, you're kosher. However, even if in the middle you were not, it's fine. So anyway, based on this, as we continue to kuf chaf ches amid beis l'char, that's the tiyufta dekuhu. It's the tiyufta on all of them, according to all those opinions. So over here, we say that he's possible in all eidos. So tiyufta. In fact, that's a question. Person says regarding a child, bein abanim, among all of his children, neman. So what does that mean? Basically, he says, we'll see exactly what the testimony is regarding this tinnik. So my kamer, Amar by haki kamer haimer al tinnik bein abanim yirash konachasei neman kireb Yochanan ben Broika. Basically, you can say, I know I have 10 kids, but I want this one kid to get everything. It works. As the Rashbam brings down, as will be said in the Mishnah, b'masnisin im amar al misha royal yarish, has to be just one of the kids who could get some Yerusha, devar kayamin. Upaskin lo kaman hilchs kavase. We talk a paskin like this, and therefore it would work. Rav Yochanan and Omer enu neman k'Rabbanan, who feels that you can't do that. So maskav Rava, so hai neman ve'enu neman yirash will yirash m'boile. It doesn't sound like we have the right case, because we should rather say, are you going to inherit or not? El Omer Rava hachikamer ha'Omer al tinik ben abanim b'chorhu neman k'Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Yochanan enu neman k'Rabbanan. Actually, the whole machlokes is totally on a person's beliefs. There's a person neman to say regarding one of my children that this child is my bechor. So is he able to make that statement that he would be believed? That's now why we're able to use the language of neman or enu neman. Shalach Rav Abel Rav Yosef Bar Chama Ha'omer Titel Ishti Ke'echem en Abanim. I want my wife to be treated like a child when it comes to Yerusha. That consider her that she's able to get a Yerusha. The Rashbam says Ushchimi Ra Mayri. We're talking about this person is on his deathbed. So Notelos Ke'echem en Abanim. She is able to attack and get just like one of the other kids. Amarava V'nechasim Shalach Shav. Only possessions of now, says Rashbam. Shimnis Rabu Hanachasim Mishas Chaluka Eno Notelas. It's only up until the time of this declaration. But if, let's say, there was an increase in his Nechasim at the time of the division, that part she won't get. Ki'im B'oiso Shahilu Mishas Amira. Only at the time of his Amira. Then Adam Machna Devashol B'oilam. Because he can only be Machna something from this point forward before, but not something that hasn't happened yet. Okay. B'stama ein adam malal daito davar haroy lo level aknaiso el davar shehu muksik boy. So therefore, because of that, it will only work shel achshav. And furthermore, ubabanim haboin la'achim mekan. When it comes to the banim, says Rashbam, Kloimer lo lefi cheshman habanim sheish lo achshav levad tachloi kleachar moiso v'titu chel gadol el av lefi cheshman kol habanim shel shas chaluka. You have to calculate it based on all the children, nasan law. Okay. So look at question 7. Question 7 says like this. Shchimira shi'emer ti toil ishti benachasai le'echem kechem in abanim. So, on his deathbed, it makes this declaration that his wife should get like any other kid. So, will it work? La'achar mikan, even though it tells us if he cheshman gam keneged hanoladim la'achar mikan, will she be able to get based on the children that may be born afterwards? So, in tells mechasim haboin la'achar mikan, but no tells gam keneged hanoladim. She'll also get keneged the ones that will be born later on. Okay. Person has this document of debt on his friend. So Malbo Eimer will parati kum. So the lender says, I never got paid. Loivo Eimer parati meksa. I did pay, but it might have been mixus. I'm only admitting that I paid you half. Okay, so no one is a might have been mixus, a shmur might have been mixus. But over here, we have another interesting thing that happened. The Edom Shapar Kulo. You actually have witnesses that say that he was completely paid, right? After who's already might have been mixus, these witnesses know that he paid completely. He shouldn't have to pay even that half. So what's the din in that situation? So how is that nishba? When you say a shul is made, and then he can only collect from the chasam nechayrin of mishubadim loy. But we don't allow him to collect from lands. The Amri, because the consumer will say, Anana Edom Samchinan. You can say the customer who's assuming based on the witnesses. So the witnesses thought that it was completely paid off. And therefore I bought this land not thinking there was a shibud on it. So therefore it's only a b'nei chayrin, you can't collect from the chas mishubadim. The feel Rabbi Kiva the Rameshav of Havi. Even according to Rabbi Kiva, who says it's a din of Meshiv Aveda. What is that? So the Rashbam says the Machloks Rabbi Kiva and Rav Shimon Elezer B'tchil Shnai Moichsin in the beginning of the second parak in Bam Matzia Shtar Shekosabo Saloyin or Dinorim. Now, when it says that, it could mean the least amount of that which is plural, which is 2. Now the Malva says Yomi 5. The Leva says 3. So Rav Shimon Lezer says, since your mother mixes, you make a shur. Rabbi Kiva says no. It's Enu El Kameshav Aveda Upat Mishvua. The Sloin Lo Mashma Tefei Mishnayim. So this person actually was giving you more. We shouldn't be mechayiv him, because the truth is, since the document itself only says dinar, which is mashma 2, the fact he said 3, so then that's Meshav Aveda. So that's according to Rabbi Kiva. That's only because there was no witnesses. All we have is the star of a hechadika edim. But you have witnesses that are actually supporting the lender and saying that it was paid off, supporting the lender. So then, irtute irtas. So here we say he was afraid. So Maslim Ravashi Adarabba, feel Rav Shimon Elezer, the Ramana mixes the Taina Havi. So he would say that even in this case, it's even though it was 5 and you said 3, even though the document says 2, that still might have been mixus. It's not Meshem Aveda. Hanimil Hechadaleka Edom to come Messiah. There's no witnesses. Of Hechadika Edom to come Messiah if there's witnesses. Vadi Meshem Aveda Havi in this situation is definitely Meshem Aveda. Okay. Dorish Mar Zutra Mishmeda Rav Shimi Barashi Hilchasa B'choil Hani Shmaisa. Halachas like in all these sugnis, Kedeshal Rabbi Abel, Rabbi Yosef Bar Chama, halachas like him. Amar Ravina Rav Ashi to Rav Nachman Mai. So how about the case of Rav Nachman? Says the Rashbam. The Polgalehi Gabi Avadim. He argues with regard to slaves, and he says he cannot collect from Avadim. So how do we understand that? So in Gaivan, yes, you do collect. So Masnisin law. V'chein Rav Nachman. You should say it's so too. Rav Yochanan says. So we're saying the halachas like him. What's that coming to exclude? As we continue to Kuf Chav Tes Amud Aleph. Ila Fuki Midu Rava. If it's coming to exclude the Shita of Rava regarding the people that you could have as Eidim. So Moisevhu, he was only adding onto it. Idamar Baravashi, Lesachas Kamar Baravashi. Ila Fukim de Shmuel, Rav Sheshis, Rav Papa, Ha Itoisfu, it was already asked. Ila Fukim Rabbi Yochanan, it's excluding from the words of Rabbi Yochanan, Umias Kafta, Damar Baravashi. Okay, let's stop there. Let's maybe see another couple questions. TA 24. Hama Chaveru. Avdi Ganavta, right? You're stolen. My Evan was stolen. So in that case, writes a toil. He'im yachal aksabo. Can he retract? A libed chachamim shibaroi bakar in yachal akser b'mazet toloi. So it's an argument in the Gemara on Sanhedrin Gabi Neman Olai Abba Sheinu Yochel Asabo Irakim Hatoiveya Oimer Mochalach and Yochel Akser O Gam Kishanishma Oimer Etin Lacha V'Hodin Dahavi Ke'etin Akaisin Lacha B'Hishav of a toil. Okay, that's TA 22. It's pretty similar to question 6. Question TB 23. Shchimira she'omer titol ishtim nechase ke'echad men abanim. Ke'echad men abanim. So what's the din? So ein noitelos menachasim le'achar mikan. Aval hi notelos lefi cheshbon gam keneged hanoladim loy le'achar mikan. Ad kan.